Here they all are.
All right.
In what I can only describe as a truly shocking turn of events, our next guest is actually backstage, ready to come out. Very bizarre. That was really gross. What? Why'd you come out and give me the stink eye?
You were teasing him about actually being here.
Well, because teasing. I was stating a fact, you're never backstage when it's time to come out there. You know darn right that's when you poop. Right now, Rich, or Dick, and I aren't really getting along that well, in case you couldn't tell. Yeah. And that's because he's been directing our recent episode, and so we've gotten to spend a lot of time with each other and discovered certain personality incompatibilities. Yeah. Like his attitude. Or Misha's inability to act. Apparently that one was a little close to the bone. Everyone was like, oh. I can't believe Rich got like that. That's like calling a short person short.
What do I have to do with it?
No, it's been awesome working with Misha, and that's not a bullshit lie, but I will say...
What kind of a lie is it?
I got a real... It's just a soft lie. I got really excited to travel with Misha, because last time we traveled together to a convention, it was in a car with Ruth. Ruth drank everything she saw. Misha drank everything that Ruth didn't drink.
I lost my passport.
You lost your passport. We lost Ruth for a hot second. We found Ruth, got her across the border. It was a great time. And I'm thinking, we're going to relive those days last night. Because Misha and I came in on a red eye. Like, we're going to have the time.
It was actually, I have to say, I was like, oh my God, it's taken like, I literally did not fall asleep until we left the ground.
Yeah, and then
I slept the whole
you
time.
big jerk, slept the whole time.
Yeah.
And I had all these plans about like, it's a party in the air.
You kept on
Misha and Rich.
Party bus in the sky.
Party bus in the sky. What's that party bus in the sky?
In fairness, the flight did start with you doing some sort of really creepy lap dance thing in my face.
I was seductively showing Misha my bottom. I said, I'm 50, but I still got it. Yeah, I'm 50.
But I have to say, from my vantage point, he does not still have it.
Well, in my defense, I never had it, so I can't have lost it, so meh. But
Anyway, I see how we're getting along.
I got all up in his grill piece with my tushy last night, thinking it would get the party started, and it put him right to sleep.
And
it was just like
I was
marriage.
tempted for a moment to slap him real hard, and then I was like, no, I don't even want to do that.
It was good times.
Yeah, it was really, really...
Misha Collins, everybody.
Hi. I met a little man about this tall, dressed as Castiel, and one of the staffers said, "Who are you dressed as?" And he said, "Daddy." And that made me suddenly like, oh, I'm a little bit uncomfortable because I don't know what the paternity laws are in Canada. So, well, no, I mean, I should be saying sorry too. Like, it's a two-way street. Oops. He seems nice. There's another one? And it doesn't make me a sharp shooter. It's just buckshot. It's going everywhere.
Your influence goes wide.
Your influence is great.
I want to get that looked at.
It's actually a pretty terrifying image. What? I heard you the first time. I just wanted to hear you say it again. Well, evidently not. Oh, thank you. Oh no, what?
Stop encouraging
Hey
me.
guys, stop fucking around.
Will I go to prom with you? Why did everybody go, oh? Because everybody knows like it's one of the terrifying moments in a person's life to ask someone to prom and then be rejected, and you're afraid I'm gonna reject her or him, I can't see you. Can we, why don't you text me and we'll talk about it, okay? Suddenly feel very nervous up here. So speaking of prom, we had a fundraiser this week. It was a Thanksgiving challenge that happens every year, or for the last several years anyway, in Vancouver, where we try to raise each television show, each production tries to raise money for a local charity that feeds needy families, and which who cares about that? But we won last year. And so we wanted to win again this year, much more than we wanted to help the needy families. And we did realize about ourselves that we're more competitive than we are charitable. Like the driving force for everyone, like I don't think most of us even knew what the charity was that we were supporting. We were just gonna beat those other fucking shows. But it also told us a little bit of something about our corporate culture on Supernatural, which was any excuse to fuck around, we're going to take it. So every day there was another fundraising event to raise money, where the crew would put money into a raffle, and then they would get to pie producers in the face, or throw water at each other, or things like that. I guess and it was interesting to watch. Like some of the people, when they were pieing a producer in the face, you could tell there was years of resentment behind what they were doing, and deep, deep catharsis, which I experienced when our production designer dressed up as Donald Trump. And we had a dunk tank, and I dunked him, and it was not, I was imagining that it was a hand grenade, and but on the last day, the wardrobe team, which was sort of spearheading the fundraising effort, approached Jared and Jensen and said, "Would you guys mind dressing up for this afternoon's fundraising pie throwing in the face challenge?" Very high concept, and they said yes. How about lederhosen? And they were, oh, great idea. And then, Misha, you want some lederhosen too? And I was like, no, I want a prom dress. And then they brought the prom dress. It's actually a quinceañera dress, technically. And they put it in my trailer. And what none of us could have anticipated was that it has this sort of sparkly, effervescent quality, which is actually just like it was rolled in glitter. And so my trailer, every nook and cranny is filled with glitter from now until the end of the show, for sure. So that there will be a constant reminder for me of the dress and wearing it. By the way, it was very challenging to get, when they started, at the end, they came after us with pies, which hadn't been in the contract. And I got out of that dress so fucking fast. I've been down this road. I'm not going to do this again. Yeah.
Good.
Of course we won. But we also cheated. We waited until the last minute, and then me, Jared, and Jensen, and Random Acts all put in as much money as we needed to make sure we won. Just cheating, basically, but we won.
Strategery.
What happens if we don't follow the normal format? How quickly does everything fall apart?
I think we're already there.
Shall we test?
Yeah.
I am testing it. I'm just staring at you awkwardly.
How is that different from usual?
How long before people start leaving is the real question. Hi, yes, you're waving at me in the back. What are you waving about? Hi. Why are they keeping you at bay? Have you been marked as a potential threat? What's that? Oh, really? What country are you from? Yeah, Canada's not picky about who they let in.
As evidence.
You didn't answer my question. Where are you from? Oh, I'm so sorry. I just see now angry gesticulating. I can't hear you anymore. Anyway, sorry about the restraining order. Yeah, we have an interesting moment. I have an interesting, we Americans, your friends to the south, not really friends, we're just people who live below you. We have an interesting political moment right now. It's very exciting.
Impeach the mofo.
It's like we it makes me question a lot of things about our system. I mean, obviously, democracy doesn't work. We've learned that. We have what I would say is probably the least qualified person in the world running the country. And yet still everyone acts like, yes, this is the system, we gotta follow it. It's like, but if ever there was a time to have a revolution, this would be it, guys. Let's change the system, because something is seriously not working. Okay. I don't know if you guys know how our system works, but you have to be a U.S. citizen to have any say in oh, actually, no, you don't. You can be from Russia and choose the president. It is kind of comforting. Like in the States, when I get up on stage, I try to be a little tiny bit delicate about my Trump bashing. I mean, I bash him like with a 5-pound sledgehammer instead of a 10-pound sledgehammer. I still bash him, but a little bit delicately. Here, I feel like I don't have to do that. It's so safe here. Except I know you are all Trump voters, so sorry about that.
How dare you?
Tar and feather you.
How dare you, sir?
These four right here.
No! Stop!
You want to find them in the parking lot after.
Oh, she's Canadian. Sorry, Joanne.
Sorry, Joanne. You followed him with a bad crowd.
That's it.
Thanks, Misha.
4 women beaten in parking lot trying to get into Uber. Outside of Supernatural Convention.
Payback is hell.
Most violent event in Canada in the last 6 years. Hi, you have a question for me? What is it?
I'm in my junior year of high school, and I'm
Congratulations.
No. I'm learning a lot about life and like things in it, like social connection and everything. And I can only imagine you as a celebrity.
Wait, you're learning about life or reading about life?
I mean, both, I guess.
Okay. What did you say?
What? What?
Learning.
Learning? She said learning? Thank you. In social? Oh, the social aspects of life.
I guess.
I feel like we have a lot to learn about social interaction. But okay, go. Oh, carry on.
I'm gonna enunciate. I can only imagine
Good.
if you as a celebrity, like how you see social things and life and human connection. So like, what have you learned about like human interaction and life and stuff from being a celebrity?
What have I learned about What have I learned about life?
Well, I like.
Let me tell you.
Oh my God.
Let me sum this up for you. It sucks. No, I'm just kidding. There are occasional good moments. I just like to deliver uplifting messages to the youth. Well, it is a very interesting phenomenon to be, I guess, semi-famous because you.
Don't push it.
Who are you? I was here to see
Because
Jensen.
there's a very common interaction that I have, which is I'll meet somebody who knows me, but I don't know them. And that's an interesting dynamic to be a part of because people often feel like we have a real connection because that's how connections form. You see a face over and over again, you get to know that face, you read things that they say or watch videos and it feels real. I'm not real. I'm a robot. And a lot of people don't know that. A lot of heckling over here. You guys are in timeout. Oh, which reminds me, last night we were shooting, and we were at about hour 12. This was after everybody had, pied each other angrily, and the crew just started getting kind of contentious, and people were snipping at each other, and we got into something like, ooh, that was tense. A lot of tense moments were cropping up. And the first AD all of a sudden was like, okay, everybody, 7th inning stretch. Everybody, I want you outside for 10 minutes. We're taking a break. Just never happened before. She literally put the entire crew in time out when they were collecting overtime. Like, we were at over the 12-hour day at that point. And she's like, everybody outside. I don't want anybody in here. Go get them fresh air. Out. You get out of here. I don't want to see your faces. It's kind of amazing. Then we went outside and fought with each other. So that's an interesting thing to be a part of. I actually think that our particular cast and crew and fandom has a somewhat unusual dynamic in terms of that social interaction. I think a lot of people who are on TV tend to be really, really walled off when it comes to fans or viewers, and we only have a partial wall, like Trump's wall. That if you work hard, you can go around it,
Mexico's not paying me to be here.
Anyway, I don't know. There are lots of, I could talk about this forever, but I won't because I don't really have anything profound to say. But thank you for broaching the topic.
Thank you.
What have you most importantly learned in your junior year about social interaction?
Don't take a push. Do not take a push, whatever you do.
What is that?
AP US History.
Oh, a push?
Yeah.
That's what we call it here. A push.
A push? Okay.
Yeah. But
I won't.
But
Thanks for the tip.
But it is really interesting. I mean, like, I'm in a lot of different, like, theater, you know, I mean, and like the orchestra kids, we talk about the orchestra drama, and then I talk about the theater drama, and it's weird. Sometimes I feel like I'm in a high school movie. I mean, not just because I'm in high school. Okay, should I
Well,
leave?
it feels like that could be related to why it feels like you're in a high school movie. But it's so weird. I'm in high school, and it totally feels like I'm in a movie about high school. You know what? Here's the bad news. It doesn't actually get that much less like high school when you get older. There's still a lot of drama. I would say that people even who work hard on themselves in terms of social interaction and self-improvement still end up having a really hard time muddling through life and figuring out how to navigate social interactions. So the good news is all of the interesting stuff and any difficulties are perfectly normal. The bad news is it'll never go away. Yeah. Hi.
Hello, Misha. Welcome, and thank you for sharing.
Can you speak up a little, please?
How do you manage the separation between the character Castiel and the person Misha?
It can be challenging sometimes, because there are places and times when, if I am not in character as Castiel when we are rolling on camera, the scene is not going to work. And likewise, if I am in character as Castiel but I'm having sex with my wife, it just doesn't go well. It's okay, we don't need protection.
Wow. In a mood.
So I try to be really judicious about when I'm in character and when I'm not. That's right, I forgot about those other two. And the worst part is I just found out about them 20 minutes ago, and already that's the kind of father I am. Why is she still standing there? But it's a funny thing because on set there's a certain decorum that we generally follow, which is when we're talking to each other as people, as castmates and coworkers, we generally address each other by our names. Our human, real-life names. Like, for example, if you were working on Supernatural and I was working on Supernatural, you would call me Misha, and I would call you Jerome because I wouldn't remember your name. And Richard Speight says, hey, great, everybody great, keep rolling. Cass, when you walk in the room, I don't think he knows my name.
Sure he does. Got a whole song about it.
So he has a hard time with the transitions, for sure. Okay. Hi.
Hi, Misha.
Hello.
I just want to ask, since this is supposed to be the last season for Supernatural, what are your plans after?
You don't trust us at all, do you? Everyone's like, you're just a bunch of liars. We're just watching it because we hate you. What are my plans? Well, I was going to take a push, but that's sort of out the window now. I have to say, I really don't know. I'm trying to. Just the heck, I thought you were in timeout.
Yeah.
People.
Ignore them.
Yeah, evidently. Now you're in timeout again. Timeout from your timeout.
Wow.
Literally like my children. That's a great idea. I could do kids' parties. It really is. Is heckling infectious? It's that whole section of the room. It's not just one person. They've seated all of the bad kids together. Yeah, I'm trying to. I guess at the moment I'm trying not to. I'm trying not to sign on to anything because I'm really not sure what I want to do, and I feel like I need a big chunk of time in order to figure out what I want to do. And I don't want to make an impulsive decision because the last time I did that, I got stuck on a show for 12 years. I love the idea that I've been trying to get off the show. It's like, I started out, I was like, oh, I gotta get out of here, I'll just act badly. And then that didn't work. And I started showing up to work late, and that didn't work. So I started up drunk, and that didn't work.
That explains season 7.
You died a few times.
That's true. You're in timeout. So yeah, I guess I'm trying to actually figure that out, and I'm giving myself as much space and time as I can to figure that out. I've had some conversations about, with people at the studio and network about, what do you want to do next, or, and I just say I don't know, which is a great way to really torpedo your career. But I don't know. Move to Australia. Okay, that's an option.
We have free healthcare.
They're really going to town over there, aren't they? I want to have, I don't even know if they've invented this yet, but I want a group muzzle.
Cone of silence.
Thank you for asking.
Thank you.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. I wanted to know, what was your favorite betrayal moment on the show?
Betrayal?
Yes, betrayal, yeah.
Remind me, what happened on the show? Well, I think it's probably going to be Chuck. I think that will be the ultimate betrayal. Because although we didn't, I think we all thought that, or at least I did anyway, I thought God, yeah, maybe he's absentee, or maybe he hasn't been a great dad. He has, at least in my mind, been more or less good, and he is coming across as pretty terrible. And it's a pretty. You want to get that? No, you can get it.
Didn't that ring yesterday?
Go ahead, take the ball.
This is not the thing.
She's on the phone. It could be important. You're not even looking at it. What if it's your mother? She did. She was like, "Oh, it might be my mom." So, I think that's actually a pretty big betrayal. And by the way, I also think that we, as a show, are betraying the entire biblical lore by turning God evil. So, and probably alienating tens of millions of people. Thank you. I wouldn't be surprised if we all have to go into witness protection when this is done, just because there'll be mobs out after us. Thank you. I'm really surprised that there's not a bigger vocal online resistance to supernatural being like, so now God is evil and we're hunting God and trying to kill him. And everybody's like, oh yeah, we get it, that's fine. I love the show. We'll meet priests who are like, I love the show. Really? Okay. Can you put that in writing for me? Hi.
Hi. So my favorite episode is the musical episode, but it makes me really sad because you're not in it.
But Castiel is portrayed.
Sure.
Okay. I'm just grasping at straws here.
But I was wondering if how you think Cass would react to the musical if he was in any episode.
I like to think that he'd tap his foot and sing along. I really loved that when Castiel was rocking, when he was a babysitter, the only song he knew was the theme song to The Greatest American Hero. Initially in the script, they had Castiel singing Highway to Hell. Which singing Highway to Hell a cappella is actually fairly challenging, but I finally felt like, all right, I got it down, and then they're like, yeah, we couldn't get the rights to that, but we could get the rights to the Greatest American Hero theme song, so that's what you're singing, which was just as good. Hi.
Oh, God. Okay. I've noticed that you're really very good at being in the moment, and I was wondering if you had any tips on practicing mindfulness and just being in the moment, enjoying the moment.
I wish I felt that what you're saying was true, but thank you for saying that. I think life is much better when you are in the moment, and I spend much of my time lamenting the fact that I'm not in the moment, or escaping the moment by going onto my phone and looking at news of Donald Trump. You shouldn't have asked this, because now I want to give an earnest answer, and everyone's going to be annoyed. I was really not in the moment, like 16, 17 years ago, and really having an existential crisis, thinking I was going to quit acting, didn't know what to do with myself, felt like everything was meaningless, but also felt really distractible and really not present. And then I sort of happened into meditation. Somebody I knew had started meditating and really liked it, and I was like, oh, all right, maybe I'll try that. And I went online, and the first thing that popped up was this 10-day silent meditation retreat, and I was like, well, I don't have a job. So I went and did a 10-day silent meditation retreat, which was with this particular teacher in this particular school of it's mindfulness. You said mindfulness, so that's why I'm bringing it up. Mindfulness meditation, which is basically like you just sit there for 13 hours a day on a mat, silently trying to pay attention to like sensations on your body or your breath or something really, really fucking boring. And when thoughts inevitably come into your mind, you just gently, let them go. When you notice, oh, I'm fantasizing about, role-playing as Castiel, you just gently push that out of your head and go back to, focusing on your breath or your sensations on your body. And then I found it to be incredibly beneficial. And when I went back to regular life, I had a miserable experience, by the way. Those 10 days were awful. But then I went back to regular life and found, oh, wow, I'm a lot more in the moment now than I used to be. And so I've done like 15 of these 10-day silent meditation retreats. I've squandered probably 6 months of my life doing that. But I would say without it, I would be a total catastrophe. And now I'm just a partial catastrophe. And I would recommend, mindfulness meditation. I do it pretty much every day for, at least 20 minutes and more when I have time. But it's very helpful. Yeah.
Hi. So I'd like to preface my question with letting you know that I am aware that when the angels die, they go to the empty. But if Castiel was to go to
What the hell are you
heaven,
talking about? I'm just kidding.
if Castiel was to go to
I
heaven,
wouldn't have been able to tell you that, but thank you for reminding me.
if Castiel was to go to heaven, what would
Well, I just have to tell you one thing. So we were doing the pieing thing yesterday, and basically how it worked was we pull a name out of the hat, and then if your name was pulled out, me, Jared, or Jensen would read you trivia questions about supernatural. And one of the trivia questions was, when monsters die, where do they go? And yeah, okay, you're smart. Well, Miss Perfect, that's fine. Me and Jared and Jensen had no idea. Anyway. We were like, purgatory, is that right? How interesting. I know. I'm sorry she cut you off. Yes, go ahead.
So, if Castiel was to go to heaven, what would his heaven look like? Who would be in it, and what would be in it?
Well, Castiel has been in heaven, hasn't he?
Yes. Yeah, but he
But no, as
visited
in, if
someone
he
else.
had his like own self-contained heaven,
He
like
has.
a human soul.
Doesn't he?
He was visiting someone else's.
Thought I knew something. I'm not going to say what you people are trying to get me to say right now. I'm not going to do it. We're passing around on set this book of like, it's this, I'm not a fan of the Zodiac, just don't put that out there, but like when people are like, oh, what's your birth moment? Oh, that means that I am constitutionally unable to be your friend. But anyway, there's this book that we're passing around, and it says like your birthday, and then the people that you are, love compatible, frenemies, beneficial relationships. There's all these different categories. And last night we were shooting, and Jensen picked it up. He's like, Misha, what's your birthday? And he flipped it around and went to the thing, and he was like, thank God. I thought it was funny. Can I plead the fifth?
Nope.
It's Canada. Can I be extradited to the U.S. and then plead the fifth?
Nope.
Actually, never mind. I'd rather answer the question.
Okay, that was actually funny.
I don't know. It's a good question. I haven't really thought about. I mean, I imagine that Castiel's version of heaven would be him feeling like he's really up. There have been a lot of moments over the last several years where Sam and Dean and Cass have said things to each other like, we're family, or, really had moments of really being there for each other. And I think heaven for Castiel would be actually believing that, like feeling like he really belongs, that family has adopted him into it, and that he's really a part of it. There are fleeting glimpses where Cass feels like maybe he's a part of it, and then that is always taken away from him in some way or another. This season has been a lot of that feeling like that's taken away or lost, and it seems like it's pretty deeply devastating for him. So in a way, having that taken away from him certainly seems like his version of hell, and I imagine really feeling like he has it would be a version of heaven for him. Thank you. Hi.
Hi, Misha. I'm Juliet.
Hi, Juliet.
My question was, have you ever worked with a co-star on the show who's really surprised you?
Yes. I'm thinking of two examples recently. One, an actor, now I'm forgetting his last name, which is really terrible, but he plays Sergei on the show, and he is reprising his role. His real name in real life is Dmitri. Can't remember his last name, but he surprised me quite a bit because I tried to make him break. I tried to make him laugh when it was his coverage several times, and it was almost like he wasn't listening to me. really was stone-faced. He did a great job of not reacting. We have recently been shooting with Jake Abel, who is... reverse
No
spoiler alert.
there.
And he is, I will not give you enough details to really spoil things, but he's reprising his role as Adam on the show. And when he was, he's a young man, and I didn't shoot with him much when he was on the show before, so I didn't really get to spend that much time with him. But I have been really impressed with him. He seems really grounded, really humble, really hardworking. He shows up and he's just into the, feels like, oh, this is a real scene. And he is making deliberate acting choices and makes the words that he's saying incredibly believable, which, on Supernatural is like, whoa, what show are you on, man? He's making us all feel like, oh God, now we have to try to act. Thanks a lot, Jake. We talked to the producers, they're gonna kill him off again. But it was interesting, it was surprising, like, oh, you're really delivering it here, man. Okay, hold on, I'm gonna learn my lines. Fine. But yeah, he's been really surprisingly excellent. And by the way, it shouldn't be a surprise, but the last time he was on the show, he was a kid as far as I was concerned. He was just, he was so young. And now he's matured into, over the course of 10 years, into a really commanding actor who's doing a really great job. There you go. Jared has also surprised me by suddenly fondling my balls right below the frame.
That was a surprise.
No matter how many times it happens, I'm always a little surprised.
Thank you for clarifying.
Hi.
Hi.
Nice seeing you again.
Nice seeing you.
Thanks.
Yeah.
So I am personally a fan of your accents, and one of them in Part 6 was my favorite movie.
Oh, my goodness. How did you see Part 6? It was never even released.
Yeah, it's on YouTube.
Piracy.
Well, I love that movie, and what made you do that accent?
The director. I had a real hillbilly accent on that show. I don't even know if it was at all remotely authentic. We were supposed to be Texan. I sounded like really, really from the sticks. Almost unintelligible accent. But I guess now that I think about it, it sounds kind of like Jensen.
I knew that's where he was going once he started it. Yeah.
I don't even know if I could. I know that I had one line which was, I was channeling, basically the movie is about this family who lives in this rinky-dink little trailer, and one of the family members who's bedridden and very overweight, he just lies in bed all the time, but all of a sudden God is speaking through him, and God tells him that we as a family have to build a golf course. And so Walter, the bedridden guy, is channeling to me the messages from God, and I'm taking inventory. And he starts describing one of the holes of golf that we have to build. And he says, it's got a dog leg going past the 4th green, and then it's in a square shape. I don't think there's anyone in the world that says square, except for my character in that movie, but I committed to it 100%. All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Hi. My question was, what's it like playing so many different characters in the same supernatural universe?
The same wardrobe, so many characters with just one trench coat. I have to say, it's been one of the aspects of the show that I love the most, which is that we don't have to do the same thing all the time. We get to play different characters, even though, there's not, I don't think, another show where, except for that one, where the girl is cloned.
Orphan Black?
Orphan Black, yeah, that one she gets to play a lot of characters. She's kind of an okay actress. So yeah, it's really, it keeps it exciting to be able, not only are we doing something weird and different every week, but we often get to play different characters, and that makes it feel like we're not bored when we show up at work, and I love that aspect of it. Sometimes I feel like, oh, I've really sunk into this character, and I feel like I get it, and it's working well, and sometimes I feel like I have no idea what I'm doing. Please, what accent am I doing right now? Is this accent German, or what? Yeah. We did the alternate universe cast, and there was something in the description of the character in the script that made it sound like he was like a little bit like, and he had the je ne sais quoi, the essence of a SS officer. But it wasn't like, it didn't say he looks like an SS officer. So I prepared the character with I didn't want to go headlong into Nazi stereotype with it. So I gave him a little soupçon, a little taste of Nazi, with a little taste of a German accent. But if you're gonna do an accent, you don't do a quarter of an accent like I did. It just didn't make any sense. And then I got to set, and they had me in a SS uniform, which would make sense that I would then just have a German accent. But for some reason, stuck with the quarter accent. So, and I can do a German accent if forced, but I, at that point, just committed to doing an accent that was nebulous and made no sense. Mercifully, that character died quickly. Okay. I had another interesting accent moment, which was I did an episode of a show with Tony Shalhoub that I'm forgetting the name of the Monk. And thank you. And I played it was the red herring character. Everybody was supposed to think that my character was the killer, and I was interviewed, and I was suspicious, but then they find out that it wasn't really me. And there was a witness who had overheard me talking, or overheard the killer talking, and I had a thick Russian accent because the character was a Russian gangster. And we shot the whole episode, and then they were editing it, and they realized, oh, wait a minute, the whole story hinges on the fact that the witness heard the killer talking. And the witness would have been like, yeah, I had a thick Russian accent. But the witness doesn't say that, and it turns out that I wasn't the killer. So we had to go back in and do what's called looping, which means re-record the dialogue, but without the Russian accent. But when you talk like this, your lips move in a very different way than when you talk like this. And so I had to loop my dialogue with this weird accent going on and try to make it look like it was working, and it wasn't working. And so if you ever watch that episode, it is in a standard American dialect, and all of the dialogue that my character has is said when the camera's on the back of my head. You didn't ask about that. Hi.
Hi. I would like to know, how has having kids changed your life? What did they teach you?
So many easy questions from this side of the room today. Should I tell that story? No, I should not. So West was, when we had kids, or when we had our first kid, we had watched other people have kids and do it wrong. I'm sure a lot of you have had that experience. A lot of you without kids, you can see people who have kids and be like, I would never do that. And I was sort of determined to have, when we had kids, I was determined to just fold them into our life. And and enjoy all of the same things that we've been enjoying all along, but with them tagging along and like seeing the world through the adventure that was our life. And I think it was a great idea. And so we had West, and after the first, initial shock where it wore off and the physical healing had set in, we decided to take a little road trip with him. At that time, he was 3 months old, and we decided to drive from Vancouver down to LA and stop along the way. And he, at the time, hadn't yet discovered the joy of road tripping. So he hated nothing more than being in a car seat. And he would, as soon as he got put into a car seat, start screaming. And I was like, he's gonna be fine. He'll just adjust and realize how fun this is right away. And then he cried the whole first 3 hours of driving, 4 hours of driving, where we were stopping at a friend's party for the first night of our road trip. And the friend used to be a stripper. Most of her friends at the party were also strippers. And I have a photo in my hidden photos file with Wes sleeping swaddled on a bed with two pretty much entirely naked women dancing right next to him. And then we got a few hours of sleep, got back in the car. West cried all day again until we got to Oregon. And by the time we got to Oregon, he had cried so much that his cry was like, I think he'd lost his voice. And I was like, yeah, it's gonna be great. He's gonna turn around. He's gonna realize how much fun we're having. And that night, actually, this is sort of a sidebar. That night we had dinner with friends in Oregon who had also just had a kid, their kid was 4 months old, and they were having a terrible time with sleep. And I said, you know what, West has been sleeping 8 hours a night, every night. I don't know, we just got lucky, I guess. And that night, he started waking up every 2 hours for the next 2 years. That's a very important lesson in knocking on wood, which I didn't do. Anyway, next day he cries all day long in the car. Cried so much at one point he threw up. I am a good father. We got to San Francisco, met up with some friends. They're like, hey, we're going to a rave later. I was like, well, we've been cooped up in the car for a long time, and I think all of us would enjoy going to a rave tonight around midnight. That sounds great. And so I knew enough about parenting to know that you have to protect kids' ears, young children around loud noises, because their hearing can get permanently damaged if you don't. And we had also recently discovered the Ergo, which is a baby carrier that's sort of like a backpack that you put the baby in. You can bounce them like this, and then they gently fall asleep. And or cry, but sometimes they're crying you can't hear because they've lost their voice. And so I had a very profound moment where it was around 1 o'clock in the morning, I was at a rave, West was sleeping in this thing, and I had my hands pressed up against his ears, trying to get the sound to not permanently deafen him. And I was like, okay, maybe things are gonna change a little bit. Gonna change a little bit. And that was like a hard reset moment when I realized that when you have kids, you have to start not making everything about yourself. You have to start making your life about other people, which can be a hard transition if you're as selfish as I have been. And I went through a long period of almost mourning that independence and freedom with the kids. Really, no joke. I spent a long time wishing that I could be doing something other than reading bedtime stories. I would notice that I would be putting Mason to sleep even when she was, I was still sort of resisting it when she was a little baby. I'd be putting her to sleep and I know that it takes her about 3 minutes
to fall asleep once I start bouncing her. So I would just like count down 180 seconds and then be like, all right, maybe I can put her down now. Instead of just being in the moment and like, oh, here I am with my baby who's not going to be a baby for very long. I'm going to enjoy this. And at some point, I started to realize, like, this is fleeting. I need to take advantage of this. I'm going to have a much worse life if I don't suck up these moments with these kids. And it has to sort of be, at least partly, on their terms. Can't be just about me. So it's a big transition, but when I finally worked through it most of the way, it was a transition for the better, I think.
Thank you.
Hi. So we've all heard a lot of stories about Jensen and Jared kind of bothering you on set and kind of tormenting you. So I was wondering if you had any more recent ones that you could tell us.
Shit, I'm cornered. Is this an intervention?
Yeah, we pretended to have a convention and brought all these people here.
The question was about Jared on set, and I will just be Jared out. I want to show you. Actually, this was last night, right?
Yeah, yesterday. Yeah, great.
One thing I have to say about Jared, like he can be a bit of a toddler on set, and he can be a big goof, and he can be a little bit too rough and not know. He's like a giant puppy, right? But he also takes he takes the process very seriously. I mean, not always, but like when he's like really trying to puzzle something out and really get into the what's happening in a scene. It's like part of his mind gets into like that Jared that goes into like solving a puzzle or something like that. And there was a moment when Richard, you were directing. I'll be Jared.
Okay, I'll be Richard.
And this was last night, and you were trying to puzzle something out. And
yes.
You came up to Jared.
Well, Jared, just to really set the scene, just moments before, he's like, "What are we doing?" Because we're doing a very complicated sequence,
right.
And he's like, the camera's about to be on him, and he's saying, "What are we doing?" And so I was like, "Oh, I should go explain to Jared what we're doing."
And Jared's talking to yes, we can say. He's talking to Shoshana at that moment, and who's also in the scene. Reverse spoiler alert. Okay, so, and then, so, yeah, what's going on in the scene?
Yeah. Okay, so Jared, in this sequence, I need you to go, oh. Okay. That was it. That was not an exaggeration. I walked over, although you forgot to yell, "Shut up," as so try it again. Let's take two.
And Richard was like, "Okay."
Try it again though. Let's do it. Let's really sell it. So you're talking to Shoshana. Oh right, Jared. So let's say Jared. In the scene, we got the camera. Oh, you forgot to say "shut up." Shut up. You gotta do shut up angrily as you swat me. If you're gonna do.
Are you directing him in the redo of what actually happened?
Well, here's the we got another take. When we made the life story of Jared Padalecki, he's got a shot at playing him, so I want to be sure. Okay, here we go. Oh, I should hold on, guys. Let me let Jared know what we're doing. So, Jared, I need to tell you this scene. Shut up. And scene. And just so you know, there's not 1 ounce of exaggeration in that exchange. Ladies and gentlemen, I know he just fooled you into thinking he's Jared Padalecki, but in truth, that man right there is Misha Collins. This band right here, doing a concert on this stage tonight.
Yep.
Saturday special. gonna be awesome. I'm gonna be there. Are you? That's my question. Are you? Anything else, Bubba?
It's gonna be awesome tonight. Don't miss it. Jensen Ackles is gonna be playing with us.
Oh, that's exciting.
It's so cool they know who that is. Anyway, lots of fun people. That's not the only surprise. And so we'll see you tonight.
See you tonight.